animators and artists. Are you applying for your first animation job, or are you interested in breaking into a different production role? In today's animation industry panel, we invited 5 artists and animation mentors to discuss their advice, as well as their personal experience building portfolios. So stay tuned as we'll be answering questions like, what should you do if all of your recent work and the work you're most proud of is under a non-disclosure agreement? So let's start with some introductions. Please introduce yourself by saying your name, your current role, and the very first animation industry job you applied to. Let's start with Kaitrin.
Hi guys, I'm Kaitrin Snodgrass, and my current role right now is I'm a storyboard revisionist on Invincible Season 2 and 3, and the first industry job I applied for, I'm pretty sure, was internships. I can't remember where, because I interned at Cartoon Network, but I know I applied to a lot of places, but Cartoon Network was the only place that took me, so that's probably the first thing I ever did.
All right. And Nick, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, including your name, your current role, and the first industry job you applied to?
Sure. My name is Nick Parris. I'm currently a storyboard artist at Nickelodeon, working on a show called Zoki Sparkleton, which I could say because it's been announced. I'm mostly working through Nelvana, which is a Canadian company. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm working for Canada, but for Nickelodeon. And then I'm also freelancing on a project that's in development, so that's NDA. And my first job I applied for was a small studio job at a company called Brandissimo, where I was animating online avatars in Flash.
All right. India, your turn. Introduce yourself by saying your name, your current role, and the first animation industry job that you applied to.
Sure. Hey guys, I'm India Swift. I'm a freelance animator and storyboard artist. I'm currently boarding on some NDA stuff I can't talk about, but recently worked on the Rise movie and Transformers Earthspark, which is coming out soon. The first animation job that I applied for was a role as an animator on The Amazing World of Gumball, which I unfortunately didn't get, but I still applied for it. So there you go.
And Mike, please introduce yourself by saying your name, your current role, and the very first animation industry job that you applied to.
Hey there, my name is Michael Doig. I'm currently an art director on an undisclosed project, but previously I was also an art director / color designer on various music videos with Night's Light Table. And I'm a bit of a wild card in that I have never directly applied for an animation role. I have had past jobs in other areas, in other industries, and it's sort of allowed me to fall forward into work. So, me.
And Joshua, can you introduce yourself by saying your name, your current role, and the very first animation industry job that you applied to?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Joshua Pinker. I am an animation supervisor at Nelvana, working on a new show for Nickelodeon. Also, Toon Boom ambassador this year, which is awesome. Thanks.
Woo!
And first animation industry I applied to had to be any of the studios in the Boston area, just spamming their inboxes, trying to get an internship or a job there.
All right. Joshua, let's start with you for this next question. Did the way that you think about portfolios change throughout your career?
Yes. Next question. No, just joking. We gotta fill it out. Yeah, no. I love that we're having this panel discussion, and I don't want to take up too much time from everyone else's awesome answers. So to put it in short, absolutely it changed over the years, and I've even changed my portfolio like a million times. But definitely in the beginning, I graduated from school, had my portfolio, and I would always be comparing it to other people's portfolios and just thinking like my portfolio has to be the best. And this is, if it's the best, that's what's going to get me a job. And then there was so much anxiety when comparing it to other people's portfolios. But I think the one thing that influenced me with changing my thought process on a portfolio was when I got my first internship job at an animation studio in Boston. I asked, my portfolio was crap. Like it was really, really bad. Like I didn't have anything really good. And then I asked them, I was like, well, why did you hire me? And they were like, you're normal. And I was just like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, and this was the director. And then he was just like, I get a million portfolios sent my way, and they're really, and I'll see some that are amazing, and I'll say, we got to get this person in right away. And then they come in, and then it's like, just they tank the interview. You know, it's just like they're not dressed well, they're mumbling, like they're not making eye contact, socially awkward, and then they're like, we don't want to work with this person. So with me, they're like, we really liked your personality. You seem like a cool dude. You seem like you would get along with everyone. And that just changed the gears and like lowered my anxiety level, because I thought my portfolio had to be here, but really I needed to work on my artwork, but also kind of take a step back and work on who I am and my personality and how I interact with people and how I come about myself, and focusing on showing who I am in the interviews and less on my art. So it was like a balancing level. So that's kind of a short, trying to condense it, but I think that was a really important thing of thinking, my thought process when it comes to animation portfolios today.
So what you're saying is that like the portfolio is not the be all and end all of a job application. It is just part of it.
Absolutely. I mean, even because being an animation supervisor, I'm on the other side of the table where I'm in the hiring process. So I'll see a portfolio and I'll be like, wow, this is like good. This is like the level we're looking for. And then the person comes in for the interview, and I'll be interviewing the person, going through their portfolio while interviewing. But part of me is like, your artwork's cool. What do you do outside of art? You know, that's one of like my questions. And they'll be like, oh, like I love to go snowboarding and I travel to go snowboarding. And then it's like, that kind of sticks in my mind. And then later on, when we're doing the hiring process, I was like, who is this person? Like, oh, they're the person that does the snowboarding. That's really cool. And it's like, and their artwork is good. But like that interesting fact like sticks with me. So it's like, seeing a good portfolio, it's like, okay, this person knows what they're doing. There's room for them to grow, and we have time in the role for them to grow. But in the interview, I got a sense of who they are, and I know that they're going to be easy to talk to. They're going to take the revisions. They're going to communicate well. They're going to show up every day. So for me, it's like the portfolio got my attention, but then who they were as a person led me to hiring them. So, I mean, everyone's entitled to have like different opinions, where it's like, who cares if you're a crappy person? If you're an awesome drawer, like, I'm going to hire you. That can work too. You know, I'm not going to change other people. But for me, like my point of view and my experience, the whole personality and just your mentality, I think is really important.
Yeah, I think soft skills are important. Kaitrin, how did the way that you think about portfolios change throughout your career?
I love this question because I had kind of I used to have a very like, I don't want to say incorrect, but like a lot of what I was taught in school and like what I was being told when I first graduated, I don't think is super helpful. So I was often told like you should draw, like you should have for storyboard portfolios, like a lot of people say like have 3 different samples that show 3 different genres, and like that's great, like that can be really great if you want to have like be a jack of all trades, but I didn't like, or I shouldn't say I didn't want to be a jack of all trades. I really want to do action, and that now I'm finally doing action, and it took me years to get into action because people kept saying like, oh, you should have samples that reflect like what's popular right now, so you should do something that looks like Gravity Falls, you should do something that looks like this, and like it wasn't stuff that I loved. Like I like those shows, but they weren't like what I love. Like what I love is like anime, Avatar, Invincible. Like that's the stuff that I love. And I kept taking the advice of all these people telling me to like broaden my horizons and draw and do types of like boarding that weren't what I really wanted to do. And I think it actually like hindered my growth for a long time because I kept trying to chase this ideal that other people had set upon me. And then finally, I took, I think it was Steve On's boarding class, and he was teaching it right when he started directing on Voltron. And he basically was like, I was working on Family Guy, and I hated it, and I just wanted to draw anime. And so then I like applied to work on Benton Omniverse, and then like that's like what changed for him. And it was kind of gave me that permission of like, I really love this certain type of style of boarding. I want to go all in on it. And at that point, like I started to like, you know, refocus my direction. I think my growth, my artistic growth was like skyrocketed. And so that's like my advice to people. is there's going to be a lot of different people who have a lot of different like best practices for a portfolio. But if you know the area of animation you really want to work in, ask people in that area what they look for specifically, because it is going to be different for feature, for TV, for things like that. But once you figure out like the niche that you really want to go into, I say just go all in on it. And if you do have a variety of tastes, like follow your bliss. Like if some days you're like, I really want to do something like rubber hosey, then go for it. And then if the next day you're like, I want to do something featurey, then go for it. Like follow your bliss and go all in. That's like what I would say to do, is just draw what you love, and you'll keep making portfolio pieces if you do. So
Kaitrin, do you feel it's hard to generalize advice too much? Because like what advice that works for one artist with one set of career ambitions might not work for another?
yeah, I super do. That was actually something that I right before I finally broke in like full time as a board artist, because I started my career as a production assistant. I was going around and literally, because I knew a lot of people in the industry, and I was going around and I was asking all different people for all their advice, and I ended up kind of having a little bit of a breakdown because I was like getting conflicting advice, and the one person I didn't check in with was myself and like what I wanted to do, because I was like trying to be this like I can do everything, and then at some point I was like, that's not possible. I need to be easier on myself and do what I love. So that's what I did. It worked out.
Nick, did the way that you think about portfolios change throughout your career?
Funny enough, the further I've gotten in my career, the less I've even touched my portfolio. Yeah, so like now lately, like, I mean, it's a good thing, but I don't have to really have to show my portfolio that much. Like they'll know what shows I've worked on before. But giving advice to like up and coming artists and people who want to get in the industry, it has changed. I feel like in the sense like, so I started in animation, so like my first portfolio was a demo reel, and it was like all 2D animation and like, you know, showing the stuff I could do in animation. But then at some point I decided to switch to storyboard art, so then I had to make a whole new portfolio for that. And I feel like, I guess the biggest things that have changed with like storyboarding now, it's just drawn more. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like you're doing key animation instead of just like storyboards with red arrows all over them. So a lot of times if I see like a portfolio that has like just a bunch of red arrows but not the drawing of poses, I already know like they probably won't get hired in like the standards for the industry now. So I think that's kind of the big change. Is like you actually have to draw more and pose a lot more so that it is animated correctly later. But yeah, so what is it? Yeah, and then going on like kind of what Kaitrin said, I definitely agree, because a lot of the people who will ask me about portfolios are always like, I need everything, right? And I'm like, no, like you need to pick your focus. Like whatever you want to do. I do tell them to do like, you know, 3 different stories, but they don't have to be 3 different genres. It's just more of like showing that you could do a story from beginning, middle to end. And it actually be like a complete story. And I also try to tell them to avoid the whole, I don't know why, but so many people love that it was all a dream ending. And I'm like, you gotta, like, I literally reviewed, like, there was one time I was at CTN reviewed, like, I saw over, like, maybe over 20 portfolios, and, like, I think, like, 10 of them had the ending where it was all a dream. And I'm like, you gotta stop doing that, because, like, all the stakes that you had before, like, it doesn't pay off anymore, because it's like it didn't matter. So, I mean, you could do that.
I think everybody from a certain generation played, like, Super Mario Brothers too.
Yeah, I guess. But I also feel like I think what it is. Yeah, is that the ending of Super Mario Brothers?
Spoilers.
I think what it is I think sometimes people panic with the end, so they're just like, it's all a dream. It's like, what? No, like you couldn't think of anything else. So yeah, like I don't know. It was like a trend, I guess, and sometimes occasionally it'll happen again. But I think that's kind of always like my big advice for people doing portfolios. Like, just as a storyboard artist, you want to show you that you are a storyteller, and that also you can like problem solve. So like, you know, if like this character needs to get this, you know, get to point A to point B. So like, I'll even say start simple, like have a character going to the grocery store and then have the environment, like, you know, maybe fighting against the character. So then that it like kind of influences how the story's going. Just like simple stuff like that. Cause I think a lot of times too, people will think like, I have to do this giant epic board. And it's like, no, they check a lot of portfolios. Like they're not actually going to sit there and check. They won't always check your entire storyboard to, you know, see if they want to hire you. So I try to tell people maybe like 1.5 minutes max. which is roughly, I don't know, maybe about 300 to 400 panels or something for a story. But just to show that it's like a complete story. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Kaitrin. Like, definitely pick your focus though.
I'm curious,
so
how did you split the animation and storyboards? Because you said you had to make a whole new portfolio. How did you split like the storyboarding stuff and the animation stuff?
Well, so my animation portfolio was literally a demo reel. It was like I animated a bunch of like little short things, or like you know how like there's that website 11 Second Club, where like you pick dialogue off from the internet and then animate to it. That's basically what it was. So it was like 10 pieces roughly from like college, and I composited them all together, made a demo reel for animation. But then when I decided to switch over, I had to make a whole new portfolio where it was just basically this is like how old it is now. It's on Tumblr, but I just had to make something easy enough where you could click on the panels and it would go to the next panel. So it was like 2 different portfolios. And then I even actually did a character designer portfolio because I wanted to do that first, I think like most people. But it's just really hard to get into character design. So I ended up just more wanting to be a storyteller. But yeah, you just make a separate one for each one. But don't combine them all together. Because I've gotten a few where it's like, well, I have some storyboards and a character turnaround. And it's like, no, you have to make separate ones for each one you're applying to.
Yeah.
Because like
at least a separate page on your...
Yeah, exactly. On your website, yeah, exactly, like a separate tab. But yeah, because like in the old days before, like I think even websites, like people would actually put it in like the flipping of pages, and I'm like, why do you have 2 pages of character, like a storyboard panel? It's like, I know you want to show you can do everything, but when they're hiring you, they actually hire you for only usually one thing, unless you're in a smaller studio where you wear like 6 hats, which is actually how I started. So I have done like every job. But yeah, in the big studios, you only pick one focus. So it's kind of what I tell people usually.
India, how did the way that you think about portfolios change throughout your career?
For me, I think probably the biggest change was just going from being in university or education into being in the real world, which is that I think a lot of the way that we were taught to do portfolios or show reels at my school, and I think a lot of other schools, is that you kind of get a checklist of things that you should have in there. So I was going to school for animation, and it was like, you need a walk cycle, you need a lip sync, you need a character running in 3/4. And there were these things which are actually, very good to know and good to practice, and they definitely up your skills. But if everyone comes out of university with that, everyone's portfolios essentially look the same. And again, it's good technical work, but it doesn't necessarily show that you know how to tell a story. There's not an emphasis on acting, and it really depends what you want to do as an artist. Like Kaitrin was saying, it's so particular to each person. So one of the things that I really learned coming out of university was that you shouldn't try and it's very similar to what you guys were saying, but I think a lot of people, me included, when they went out of university, were a little bit panicked about getting into the industry. I know myself personally, I didn't get into the industry until very late. I was 27 when I got my first animation job because I was too scared to apply before that. And part of the desperation when you're putting together a portfolio and you're like, oh man, how do I find a job? Where do I go? How do I improve? Is that you fall into this trap of trying to do what you think the studios want you to do, rather than doing what you yourself find exciting and want to push for in your own work. So as soon as I started doing personal work of stuff that I genuinely liked doing just for fun, suddenly people started saying, hey, that's cool. Hey, I like how you did that. And I started feeling better about my own work, and putting together a portfolio became much easier. And that's how I landed my first animation job. It was basically just a bunch of Game Grumps stuff that I'd done for fun, like a bunch of animating cats because I love cats, a bunch of acting because I love drawing expressions. And people will see it and they'll hire you for what you have that makes you special and particular. So they'll look at your portfolio and they'll say, hey, this artist is good at expressions. We need that on this acting heavy show. Let's bring them on. And I think another thing that people often overlook as students is that don't be intimidated into thinking that your portfolio has to be perfect before you apply, because you're scared that people will say no and kind of confirm your worst beliefs about yourself, that you don't got it. Don't be scared of rejection and just go for it, because actually a lot of people in the industry are looking for people to bring on that they can teach and they can kind of mold and, bring up. So don't be scared if you don't think it's 100% there, because sometimes all it takes is for people to see the spark that you have, and they'll want to bring you on for that. And they'll be willing to kind of coach you and grow with you. Your lead will help you out. It's all a big teamwork anyway, so you don't have to do it 100% alone.
Love that. Great response.
Indy, I wanted
You
to
missed a great
ask,
shot, you don't think.
what was the first Game Grumps animated scene that you contributed?
It was, my dad really loves that I'm doing music right now. It plays on loop in my head whenever I think about it. It was the Game Grumps animated collaboration video where he was fighting the purple plant. And those who know will know, and those who don't, I'm sorry that this sounds like it makes zero sense. But the Game Grumps are 2 Let's Players, and they have a big animation following because one of them is an artist and animator themselves, and so they really encourage that side of people, and they post things on their channel for people to see, so you can show your work off, and they're very funny, essentially. So yeah, it was the purple plant fight. We did a short 17-second cut, me and Mike together. He did the backgrounds and compositing, I did the animation, which is pretty much how we've stayed ever since. We kind of fell into our slots and were like, oh, I like working like this. This is cool. And just continued doing that. So that was the first one.
Michael, when did you realize that you just don't need portfolios?
Early on, because it's been a long time since I've had to kind of put one together. I think as you make your way through your career, your wake of work will kind of trail behind you. And I think what's more powerful in our industry than what your solo work is all of those collaborations that you're able to do. Like if you can make a small project together with a group of friends, that is, I think, 10 to 100 times more powerful than here is a walk cycle. It's like, have you told a story? Have you gone from start to finish? Have you been in the trenches with people? Did they still want to work with you? And if they're still being like, oh yeah, that was awesome, then your mark amongst your peers is kind of like left, and you like, people remember how great it was to work with you. And I think your portfolio is kind of like everything that you kind of touch creatively. And it's not just something that lives on a website, but it lives in kind of like the minds of everyone you've worked with and everyone who sees what you've worked on. Like, you want people to be excited about the next thing you're going to do. And I think a portfolio is like, it's greater than what you put out there. It's like what people talk about. They're like, hey, did you check out that thing that person made? That's the gold stuff. And I think that comes from being bold, getting out there, having the soft skills. I think that was one of the first things that Joshua was talking about. Is like, who were they as a person? How do people remember you? Because I think having great skills gets you hired, but having great interpersonal skills gets you rehired by the people that have already worked with you. And that is kind of like, when people say breaking in, I feel like they think you have to kind of like sneak in, but really the door is kind of wide open. You just have to like not be the weirdo that walks in, kind of thing. Yeah. You guys, your answers were super great. I've been trying to like work out what I have left to say. Josh, your answer I kind of equated to like a house showing or whatever. Like your portfolio is like, how cool is the house from the outside? But like when you have the interview, I was thinking like, would you want to live there? Would you want to spend every day there? Because it could be a great house on the outside, but you realize like they're a hoarder or something. Yeah. And I wanted to share that metaphor with you because I really liked what you were saying.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was gonna say also, it is important because I've actually throughout my career I've heard of 2 people actually get somewhat blacklisted because they had bad attitudes. Like personally, people have come and been like, "Hey, have you heard of this guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, no of him." He's like, "Yeah, we were gonna hire him, but he's kind of he's a jerk." And I was like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like, it's weird because I went to school with them. It was like one of those moments. So yeah, personality really does matter. And even though you think the industry is like huge, in a way it's small because like it gets around. So like, you know what I mean? Like just stay positive if you're working in the industry. So like I think the three biggest factors are was it be on time, be nice, and be a team player. I think be good. I think like you said. I think those are the
I think
three,
good
but
is like, both skills and also just like being a good person. I hate to say
Yeah.
that, but like
Yeah.
don't be a jerk.
Yeah, like I want to kind of emphasize just that when we say don't be a weirdo, we don't mean like we're not talking about anyone who has any kind of mental hurdles. Like if you have ADHD or like anything like that, don't worry, we're not talking about you. We literally just mean be nice to people and like be pleasant to work with and, you know, be a team player. That's basically it.
We're all weirdos.
We're all
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all weirdos.
Yeah.
And if I could just add one last thing, I also want to kind of say like pace yourself, because there is a series of steps where it's like first you have your portfolio and then you send that, then it's like once you get past that round, now it's like now you got to take the animation test, and it's like you got to pass the animation. So even though you had a good portfolio, it's like, okay, now move on to the next step, and then it's the animation test. Then if you pass that, now it's the interview, and then you could bomb that too. So don't put 100% on the portfolio and then it's like I have no energy to take this animation test, or it's like I've been focusing on this, I don't know how to use these types of rigs because I haven't been practicing, I've just been focusing on the website layout. And then, you know, so it's definitely pace yourself with your energy for each of the steps.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Michael, I know that you don't have a portfolio right now, but you and India both encourage artists to work on personal projects that they can use in their portfolios. So I want to ask you, what might students or artists already in the animation industry want to consider before putting together portfolio materials?
I think that I kind of summarize advice for that for be seen to be making what you want to be making. Like that's kind of like the condensed thing. So first is kind of like deciding what that is. Like what do you want to make? And I think Kaitrin was summarizing, like as soon as she started to focus on what it was that she wanted to do, that's when her artistic growth went like skyrocketed. Sorry. And I think my advice is just kind of like figure that out. Maybe you'll start from like a wider thing of like, I kind of like these sort of things. And as you make that an experience making those, just sort of narrow your field gradually and don't try to rush into like, I'm going to be this immediately, because you don't know what that job's like. But like, if you can kind of see a kind of like the next step, what can you try? What can you make that gets you a little bit closer to the things that you wish you could be making? And I think it's also important to know that you don't need permission to make that stuff, and you don't need to be hired by companies to make the kind of stuff that they're making. Like you don't get into a job and then you get to make that sort of stuff. You can, with what we have available these days, technology wise, and like how like computers now, you don't have to have like hundreds of stuff that you used to kind of like not be able to afford, and everything's a little bit more accessible. So I think just like figure out just that the gradual like what will take you towards what you're trying to aim for, but then just trying to figure out what you're aiming for, I think is the first step.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I would say also
Joshua,
I was gonna say going off that real quick, it's kind of important too to do what you want too, because like if you force yourself to do something you think the studios are gonna want and you don't like it and you get hired for that, then that's your job. Like
Yes.
Yes. It's like I forced myself to do this and now I'm doing it and I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of early advice people get given is driven by fear. Everyone wants to like the highest probability of getting that job, like any job. Like how do you maximize the chance that someone's going to say yes to you? And you try and figure out what everyone else wants from you. And it's really important to be like, what do you want? What, like, answer that with your work. What do you want? And I think it kind of starts to become kind of self-explanatory because you show what you're wanting by the work that you start making.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Joshua, what are some other things that students or artists already in the industry might want to consider before putting together a portfolio?
I was going to say branding, because when I think a lot of young artists, they just kind of put all their stuff in one website and they're like, I'm an artist, here's my art. I kind of took it as like a branding standpoint. Like I have like a cartoon illustration of like me, and it's like that's on the top of my animation website. It's on my LinkedIn, it's on my Instagram, and it's on my business card. So it's like everything is coherent. And for me, I kind of think like I'm kind of like my own, like I'm providing services of like doing animation. So when you hire me, you're hiring my services that I provide. So I took it more of like a business kind of thing, where it's like, this is my brand, this is who I am, this is everything I can do. And also everything is coherent throughout the websites and social media. So I think branding is something important to think about before starting to build everything together.
Kaitrin, do you have advice for students or artists who are considering building a portfolio and what they might want to consider?
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to bring up that we haven't quite talked about yet is I tell this to my students because I teach storyboarding, and for storyboarding in particular, for like animatics and stuff. People tend to, especially like everyone, we're all very ambitious. You know, we all have like stories we really want to tell, and I've noticed that a lot of people, when my students first like pitch their stories to me, they're really long, and I always try to tell them, I'm like, recruiters and directors don't have a lot of time. And it's funny because you're talking about the dream sequence thing. I would say my solution to that was leave them wanting more and have endings be ambiguous. Because the main thing with your portfolio is, can you tell a story, and like, can it have a beginning, middle, and end? But it doesn't need to be like a full like actual short. Like, it could be part of a bigger story. I keep thinking of this. We did a portfolio review series, and I can't remember the artist's name, but there's one animatic that I like cannot forget, where this person he like did a spell to bring like the skeleton back to life, and it was like part of his like initiation ceremony to become a wizard. And then at the end, they're like, you think they're gonna fight, and then at the end, like the boss is like, all right, now you two have to go on an adventure together and do a quest, and like it ends. And I was like, I want to see the adventure with the skeleton man now, and the animatic's over. So it was really short, but it got me immediately invested in the characters. I cared about them, and now I want more. And I think if you're going to be making a portfolio, that is what you want. You want people to see your work and go, wait, where's the rest of it? And that's how they'll hire you or like get you in the door for an interview, is they want to know your storytelling like technique and like how you can leave people like itching for more of what you have to say and what you're putting out into the world. Like that, that's like the best thing, I think, for like when you're like applying for jobs.
Can I ask a question on that? For storyboards, is it better, or just like the preference when it comes to storyboards, on the portfolio, should it be just like kind of like images of the storyboard and then you just see it like that, or should it always be like in an animatic, like playing the storyboard? Should it be like a little bit of both?
It depends. I think one thing would be is if you're bad at editing, don't do an animatic. Like if you have a friend who's an editor, have them do it for you, because nothing will ruin like a good piece than having weird timing in your animatic.
Yeah.
It really depends on who's hiring, because I've heard some directors say that they love it. They love when people add sound effects and do music and like, you know, they like add flair. And I've heard some people say they hate it and they just want to be able to click through. I have seen some people's websites, what they'll do is they'll have the animatic QuickTime here and then like with those slideshow apps where you can just click through, and they'll have both options. So like that way you cover your bases. As long as it looks nice, I think it doesn't really matter. And at the end of the day, like for itself, like if the timing's a little wonky on an animatic, but the boards are really good, I don't think people are going to be like, I'm not hiring this person. You know, so it just kind of, it really depends on you as an artist. And also, you know, I think that also speaks to like, if you can have somebody look at your portfolio and give you feedback on how to like lay it out and what you're trying to do, because yeah, there are some directors that have very strong opinions on this on Twitter, so you kind of have to like figure out who you're applying to and like what they like, because at the end of the day, that's who you're trying to please.
I've read those opinions, and there's no correct answer.
Yeah, the answer is I don't know, but
Yeah.
try your best.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is if you're doing animatic, like you said, just make sure it's edited fine. Because
Yeah.
I've definitely seen some where I'm like, oh my god, it's been on this panel for like 5 minutes. What is happening? It's like they just shoved it in After Effects or like render, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Honestly, I love the attitude. Nick, what may students or artists already in the animation industry want to consider before putting together a portfolio?
You said already in? Or
either students or artists who are already in the industry. But if you're putting together a portfolio, maybe there's something else they might want to consider.
Oh, let's see. Well, I mean, going off of mostly what we've said, it's just basically like when you're putting together your portfolio, just picking what you're focused on is kind of the biggest factor. Yeah, sorry, I was trying to like. I thought you said people are already in the industry, so I was like, wait, what? Like,
Well, if you're switching genres, that can be.
Oh, if you're switching,
just trying to control the bases.
It's a riddle.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, wait, what is that? Yeah, no. Yeah, no. If you're switching portfolios, it's kind of you. Well, I mean, even I to this day will still look up other people's portfolios of like what they are like. Let's say if I want to be a character designer now, I'll actually look up character design portfolios to see where they're at now, and I'll go to other professionals' websites and see how they have it organized and stuff like that. So, like knowing to do turnarounds and character expressions, like that stuff's important, and just seeing like kind of getting the standard of like how many pages should I at least have, like how many illustrations if I need those for my portfolio, because I've definitely seen a few out there where it's like there just wasn't enough, and it's like it's a cool website, but it's like you have like 5 images. I don't know if like if this is enough information to hire you for that position. So like for example, like if you want to be like character, you also need to show that you are versatile in different styles. All that kind of stuff is important. I'd say for like, since we're talking about storyboarding and animation wise, I mean, animation, I feel like portfolios still haven't really changed that much. It's still all about showing the demo reels and like showing what you can do, and kind of like what Doig and Swift were saying, like it is important to do like your personal stuff, because that is honestly these days what really gets the attention of like recruiters and like the internet as a whole, is being like, oh my god, this is their personal project, like this is crazy. Like I think the most recent one I saw was like The Legend of PP, and it's like, what the, like this is crazy. Like this isn't just a personal project. So I don't know. Yeah, I think stuff like that is just, it's kind of just important to do whatever you want to do. If you're like searching, make sure it's focused and it's what you want to do, and shows that. And I tell people this like because it's actually important when you're getting more and more in career. Show what shows your voice. You need to. That's what helps you like. Basically, stand out from the other portfolios. It's also what's kind of helped me get hired from my show, from show to show, is they'll see my boards and see that it's my humor. Like it's kind of like, it's pretty flattering. People will be like, yeah, that's a Nick board, because like the jokes I put in there, they're like, yeah, that's definitely a Nick. I'm like, what do you mean? Just, you know what I mean? Like it's just, it reflects who you are. Is kind of important to stand out from everyone else. And I think that just applies to most portfolios you're making for any department, is that style, that that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. India, what might students or artists who are already in the industry want to consider before putting together a new portfolio?
I'm going to be mostly just echoing what you all have already said, because you all kind of just nailed it. But yeah, things like keep it short, no longer than a minute and a half, or even a minute if you can get it. Just because, like Kaitrin said, people don't have a lot of time, and you can really you can show people if you've got what they're looking for really quickly. And like Nick was saying too, I'd sprinkle in some of the personal work that you have going on in there, especially if you're changing direction and you might not necessarily have the clips you need from the work you've been doing at a studio to show people what you want to do in the future. Like if you've got some personal stuff you've been working on that is the direction you want to take, just like putting those spicy clips in there to, you know, really give it that oomph and steer it in the direction you want to go is super important. Don't be worried if you don't know that direction immediately, because it took me a little bit to work out where I wanted to be. Like, I started off and I was like, I just want any animation job. Just get me any animation job. Even before then, it was like, get me any art job. And I got hired as a UI artist, and I was like, maybe not this. I was like, okay, any animation job. And then I was doing some 3D stuff, and I was like, okay, so I need it to be 2D. I love 2D. Any 2D animation job. I got my first job at Boulder Media, and it was, you know, rig animation. And I was like, hand-drawn stuff. It needs to be animated, 2D, hand-drawn stuff. And I took a break and did some personal work just to scratch that itch. I was intending to take a 6-month hiatus and go back to the studio. And it turned out scratching that itch was what it took to kind of get those first couple of jobs rolling. And I never ended up going back, because I think people could just tell from the work I was doing that I was enjoying making the stuff that I was making.
They
and
kept asking.
That connected with people. So yeah, it might take a little bit. It's like every time you get to the new place, the target kind of shrinks. So don't worry if you don't like hit that immediately. It can take a little bit, but you'll get there.
It almost sounds.
I
like
just want to say
like you're
real
being
quick.
picky, but you're not.
I also want to say real quick that the folks at Boulder Media are very friendly and very talented, and we all like them a lot.
They're amazing. Like, I really enjoyed my time at Boulder. It was incredible. It sadly just wasn't the direction I wanted to head in, but I still some of my best friends are from Boulder Media, and we chat like regularly. They're awesome.
Indy, I wanted to ask you, what should you do if, just throwing this scenario out there, all of your recent work and the work you're most proud of is under NDA?
Personal work, baby. Do it. do some fun stuff on the side. Like, that's the cure. It's the only way. I have in the past put NDA stuff under password protection and send it only to the people who I'm applying for the job with. But sometimes even that can feel a bit risky. If you are in the position, as many people are, where you don't see your work being released from NDA for maybe years, you know, to come,
Forever.
then
Now.
yeah, some people, man, that's a nightmare. But yeah, some people, their work might never see broadcast. But in those instances, I think having stuff that maybe you do on the side, and I know that can be a big ask because it's exhausting as a job, and it takes a lot, you know, from mentally it takes a lot, emotionally it takes a lot, and physically it takes a lot. So not everyone wants to, you know, finish work and go and make something else. But if you are someone who finds extra energy for even small projects that you can do a little of over time that build into something bigger, having that stuff that you can use as kind of a backup to show people what you're about, like that can really help. And for that, I recommend finding like really small, fun challenges. Like for animation, there's the Monthly challenge. Doig and I still run our challenge every 2 weeks, so you're welcome to come to our streams and like check that out if you want. Or there's the 11-second club, as Nick was saying. That's like super good. Yeah, like very time limited challenges are really helpful when you don't have a lot of time or energy, and you'd be surprised like how fast you can pull something together if it's rough. In those instances, I don't generally worry about cleaning work. I tend to keep it pretty rough, and I think the intent can still show. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Michael, do you have anything to add about the challenges that you host with India?
Yeah, I think we try and keep them varied. Sometimes it's animation, sometimes it's maybe like background art or color centric, and I get to take more of the reins on the feedback. But I think it's important to learn what your limits are and prioritize where you want to put the focus in the work and what the challenge is about. And rather than kind of rushing in gung-ho, I think plannings can be quite important. The challenges are kind of designed around putting you outside of your comfort zone. And I think when you're there, you can kind of learn a little bit about like, what do you like about this? What do you dislike about this is also important. One of the questions we ask people is, what did you struggle with? Where is the tension there? What kind of like made you kind of like not excel? Like where is that? What do you need to work on? Because if we kind of get that information, we have a Google form where people submit, so we get that information in advance, and it lets us tailor like how does this person want to move forward, that sort of thing. And I think kind of getting out of your comfort zone lets you learn more about yourself than necessarily. I know I said like figure out what you want to do, but if you're still in that area and that kind of uncertainty, then figuring out what you don't want to do as well, or what you're like if you struggle but you find something fun in there, I think that's a really good breadcrumb to like you want to kind of push forward through that uncertainty. So yeah, I think also just hit it with enthusiasm. See it not as an obstacle, but like a play park for you to really experiment. Yeah, we try and keep them fun and varied so that people can kind of make work that is exciting or unexpected of themselves and really kind of grow rather than trying to create something that they've already created before.
Yeah, that makes sense. Joshua, what should you do if all of your recent work and the work you're most proud of is under NDA?
It's definitely tough. For me, once it airs on TV, it's going on my site. It's going in the reel. Like once it's out there, I'm putting it in. Yeah, definitely. I try to separate like whatever's out already. Like that'll be on my site, and I might make another animation reel of like stuff that hasn't aired yet, and I'll put like password protection, and I'll just use that when sending it. A lot of the times, like some studios will have like open houses, and they'll just be like, you know, kind of recruiting at the open house. So I'm like doing it in person, and I'm just like bringing my iPad and just like playing it for them there on the spot. So I feel like that's okay. But yeah, it's tough, but hopefully like when it comes out, once it's like out on the TV, then I put it. Yeah. I've even had it once where I had a studio where they're like, you can only like, they have to put the logo on it. Like when they're prepared, when you ask for it for your portfolio, they're like, we'll give it to you, but we can only give you up to 30 seconds of work and pick it. And it's like, I worked on the whole season. And it's like, so it's like, all right, give me my 30 seconds, but I'm going to find it on the black market and I'm going to get that clip. And because I worked really hard on it and I get the whole thing, everything I did on there. Yeah, password protect and just make sure you're not getting too in trouble. Make sure you don't end up in jail. Yeah.
Yep.
Good advice.
Good advice,
None of us
yeah.
are lawyers.
Yeah.
NDA jail.
Kaitrin, what should you do if your recent work and all the work you're most proud of is under NDA?
So I do agree that personal projects is great. I also know that I have burnt out a lot, so I haven't always had like the energy to work on my stuff on the side. And the last project that I worked on with Little Demon comes out August 25th. That show had a lot of. I finally got to board action. It's an adult primetime show, but we got to do more actiony stuff. So I was like, I need to show Invincible when I was like applying. I was like, I need to show them that I can do this because I had samples. And I'm a big fan of like Google Drive or Dropbox or something like that instead of password protected because I have friends who've worked on some very, very popular shows. And unfortunately, fans are eager. And also some people are not good at creating passwords. So if you have a password, make sure it's hard to guess. Like putting your pet's name, and if you post about that pet on Twitter, like don't do that. That's a bad idea. So yeah, I've seen like people have their stuff like stolen and leaked because fans were like so eager to get it, and that's every artist's nightmare, right? Because even if you could do everything right and you could still get it stolen. The reason why I like Google Drive in particular is one, like I know who I'm sending it to. You can even have the added security where like they have to request and to unlock the drive from you, so you see the email of the person asking, so it's not just some random person. So if you apply to Netflix and you see an @Netflix email like saying to request your drive, you're like, okay, I know who's looking at it. And if you do have a security breach, you can kill the link like immediately, so you can make it so that people can't look at it anymore. So that's my advice for NDAs. If you are going to do NDA work and you are going to share it with people hiring, make sure you have like contingency plans, because unfortunately, like, assume the worst will happen, and so that you don't get in trouble and accidentally violate your NDA.
And Nick, actually, did we just lose Nick?
Oh,
Oh, that was weird.
Nick, you're back.
He like froze.
Yeah, I saw all your pictures like disappear. I was like, that's weird.
Okay, well, we're glad to have you back. Nick, what would you recommend doing if all of your recent work and the work that you're most proud of is all under NDA?
Apply to McDonald's. Call it. No, I'm just- we're done here. Now, luckily, like I think I do the Google Drive myself. One, because I'm so over making websites. I don't know. It's weird. I'm getting lazy with the website thing, because it's like, I know everyone's like it's easy, but I'm like, as soon as it's like you got to code this, I'm like, I give up. But yeah, so I usually do Google Drive for NDA stuff. Luckily, most of my stuff isn't like, it's even like my older stuff I think is sufficient enough for me to get hired. So I've been lucky in that regard. But yeah, at that point, if everything's NDA, you're just gonna kind of need, and that's sort of like we've been talking about, like doing personal projects. I feel like if you do a good enough personal project, that should carry you for a while. So if you do that and like just always have that in like the vault or whatever, or like on your website, then you can kind of just rely on that to keep getting you work.
Yeah.
I feel like you just need that one good like project that shows what you really could do, and your voice and all that jazz. And that's really all you kind of need to keep getting rehired. And then as you go on, like, because my personal experience, people talk about you, and that helps you get hired. That's where that good attitude comes into play. So like I like lately, like people are like, hey, I heard you're looking for work because so and so said your show's ending. I'm like, wait, what? But no, I usually know the show's ending. But so yeah, from there it's like that's kind of where mostly I get hired, is just like word of mouth. Occasionally I'll have to do a test, which yeah, I'll do it, but I'm not always a fan, because it's hard to test while you're still working.
Yeah. So
it's kind of hard sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, like my biggest advice is, like we said before, just have something kind of personal that you could fall back on if you can't show what you have worked on recently. But for the most part, the password stuff works.
We have about like 10 minutes left, so I just want to go through some of the chat questions and do a rapid fire going around the table. Nick, I'll start with you. Zoe's asking, is it bad if you don't complete an internship before you graduate?
No, because I didn't. I didn't do an internship at all. I thought I was doing an internship. I know this sounds weird, but so I thought I was doing an internship that would help me. I was working for this independent woman. Independent woman, an independent person who wanted to help her singing career, and so she hired me as a graphic designer. And I was just doing like promotional stuff for her. But then I found out later she actually has no pull in the industry at all. So yeah, that didn't actually help me. So yeah, I actually did it without an internship. So you don't need to do an internship to get in the industry at all.
I also feel like it depends on the actual school, because sometimes you do the internship so you get school credit.
Yeah.
And then that leads to you graduating. So it also depends on the school's rules. It might be mandatory.
Yeah.
Also, most internships, at least in the Los Angeles area, are production internships. So unless you're interested in working in production, while I think it's great because I came from production, and I think knowing production makes you a better artist because you're a better teammate because you know like what the project needs. They're not art internships. So there are some, but most aren't. So you will be doing office work, and I've never heard of somebody being like, I'm not going to hire the storyboard artist because they did an intern. Yeah.
India, Adele is asking, how do you balance networking and applying and working more on your portfolio? I feel like I don't have time for both and I'm stuck.
I'd say don't worry so much about separating those things out, because actually it all kind of becomes one and the same thing. Like networking is like a word that's thrown around a lot, but what it really just means is chatting with people who also love the same stuff you do. A lot of people are like, oh, I really want to work with this person. I just want to get in a room with them, and then, we'd really hit it off, and they're really high in the industry, and I really want to talk to them. And they forget that everyone around them right now who's also working on their portfolios, they are the future directors who are going to be there. So it can be tempting to idolize networking with people who are much higher up than you are in the industry. But just having your circle of friends who also want to get there, if those friends end up getting into the industry, they will, if they enjoy working with you and they're friends with you, they'll try and pull you into stuff. You can try and pull them into stuff. It really is kind of like a big friend group at the end of the day. People who enjoy working with other people will try and work with those people more. So don't worry so much about networking. Of course, be polite and look for opportunities to talk to people who will be able to give you good information and help you push your skills and everything. But you can definitely just balance keeping up with your friends and everything with just chipping away at portfolio stuff. And if it's burning you out, like Kaitrin mentioned, getting burned out by doing too much stuff, give yourself a break. There's no time limit on you needing to make this happen. You can get into the industry anytime, and it'll be worth it when you do. But don't kill yourself over it. Take it easy. Do the stuff that you find fun. Don't panic. It's going to be absolutely fine, and you'll totally get there.
Michael, Shimzy is asking, I take more joy in rigging, 360 rigging, and I seem to be focusing more on that these days. Am I making a mistake by throwing my focus there?
I think it's interesting that if you're calling it a mistake, I think it's only a mistake if that's not an area that you are enjoying. You're finding yourself enjoying it, so that's the work you want to be doing. I wouldn't say it was a mistake. I would say it's the path that you're kind of being drawn towards. When you say 360 rigging, I actually don't know what you mean by that, but I assume that's 3D rigging maybe, rather than Toon Boom puppet rigging. But
yeah. So a 360 rig is a
is it a
rig
Toon Boom
that you got it.
that can rotate? Okay, yeah, go for that. I think if you look at animated series, yeah, I just needed the breadcrumbs. Thank you. I think if you look at series that Mercury are doing, Filmworks in Canada, it's always impressive when you can make it a 2D puppet, feel more organic, and that is kind of, that's gonna get you so many opportunities going forward. So no, I wouldn't say that's an opportunity. Yeah. Puppet wizardry is one of the more fascinating areas of TV production, I think, at the moment. Is how far can you push it that you forget that it's different shapes intertwining or overlapping and stuff. I think at the end of the day, it's just, if you're enjoying making it, then the only mistake you'd be making is doubting yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say also going off that, because I know friends that I actually have a friend working on 360 rig now. I literally heard that term last night. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, and then I put it together. I was like, "Oh, right." But yeah, no. I was gonna say also, rigging in and itself isn't what a lot of people like doing. So if you enjoy doing it, you might actually have pretty good job security. Because a lot of creative people don't like doing that part. They just want to animate it. They don't want to rig it. So that's what I always tell people.
Also,
you never know.
Look into VTubers, because they will go wild for that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they're also really good. It's a lot of work, but it sounds like it's decent money from what I've been seeing online. Yeah. I've been seeing people on TikTok show their process. It's really cool.
Joshua, I wanted to ask you. M-Patters is asking, I've often heard people say quality over quantity is important in portfolios, but as a student, I feel like I only have a small quantity of work, and much of it doesn't feel as high quality as I would like to show. What should I do?
I had the same problem, because I went to art school with no portfolio, no art background. I was just like, cartoon seems cool, let's do that. And then I just went to school, and then I learned, and I had the learning curve, and even graduating, my portfolio was very little. It's kind of just having the basics. Trying to think how to answer this question. I think as long as you can get across this is this is what I'm good at. This is what I want to do. This is what I can provide. As long as you can get that message across in the little amount of work that you have, that's all that's important.
Yeah.
Kaitrin, I saved a very easy and non-controversial question for you. Jamie is asking, how do you feel about camera moves and jitters in a portfolio? Do you like seeing them, or do you think it isn't necessary?
That's funny. So if it's distracting, like if it doesn't look good, I wouldn't put it in. Jitters in particular, like camera shakes and stuff like that. Like even I struggle with them. Like we do them on Invincible, but sometimes I'm just like, can the editor just do this? I don't want to do it. I feel like it never looks right. So I would say unless you know it looks really good and you feel confident, camera moves I think for sure you should have in your like I mean obviously you need to motivate your shots, so like don't just have camera moves because they look cool. That's like a big thing that I noticed. Also with like cutting for boards too, it's a big thing. Is I see people will cut, they won't cut back to a master shot. A lot of the time they'll be like, I need to show that I can draw in all these different angles, and I'm like, okay, but why are you drawing? Like you don't need to do that. You need to make the story make sense and be cohesive. So if the camera moves and the camera shakes and jitters are adding to your story, great, keep them in. But if they're distracting or if you're doing it because you think it's what people want, don't do it. But if you're doing it because it's aiding the story you're telling, keep it in. That's my 2 cents on it.
All right, we're running short on time. I think we're actually a little bit over, so I'm just going to ask one last question for everybody. Kaitrin, where can our viewers go to find your portfolio and see more of your work?
Yeah, my portfolio is just KaitrinSnodgrass.com. And then my social media, I'm Kate Snod, spelled exactly the way Kittsnod, on everything. So Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, that's where you can find me.
All right. Nick, where can our viewers go to find your portfolio or see more of your work?
I actually finally I put everything under a link tree. So if you just do, it's a weird spelling, but it's like linktr.ee and then /Nick Parris. But if you want to find me easily on Twitter, it's just Nick Parris, and then Instagram, someone took my name, so it's @ParrisNick, which is going off of Joshua's thing. Try to have everything be the same name. I tried, but someone took my name on the last one. And then I haven't streamed in forever, but I'm on Twitch too, but I haven't streamed in like forever.
Oh yeah, I'm on Twitch, but I forget to promote it.
India, where can our viewers go to find your portfolio or see more of your work? Also, what is the name of your cat?
Oh, that one is Sparrow on the windowsill, and then there's one underneath my feet right now called Kuma, who's like a little soft boy, and she's the kind of ninja who will kill anything that moves. And they're amazing. They like to climb my chair when I'm trying to work. It's great. But yeah, I don't really have a proper website because I'm a bit of a Twitch and YouTube gremlin. So you can actually find some storyboard samples on our YouTube channel, our shared YouTube channel of Doig Swift. I will be putting up some stuff soon, but I have to wait for it to clear NDA before I can. I'll let Mike fill in the rest of where you can find us because I always forget the links and where you should go.
Michael, do you have any other information for Twitch and YouTube gremlins?
We also have a link tree, and I was about to laugh because I was about to say I usually handle how to find us because that's really important.
This is why.
I think there's a question earlier of like what would you consider before putting together a portfolio, and it's like how will people find you? Figure that out. Yeah, so we have a link tree. It's linktr.ee /DoigSwift, and that has everything. That has our YouTube gremlinness. We also have a website at doigswift.com that has a bunch of past projects that we worked on. And you can find us on Twitter through the link tree, but I'm at Michael Doig Art. India's at Old Swifty, and together we're at Doig Swift. Because it hasn't really been said, Josh, by the way. But yeah, we work together a lot.
Joshua, where can our viewers go to find your portfolio or see more of your work?
Yeah, so my animation portfolio is pinkerart.com, so just my last name in art. And on Instagram, it's @thatkidpinker. And also, if you want more tips and advice on animation, you could check out my book, Your Animated Journey, where I threw in a whole bunch of tips and advice. And I just want to say everyone on this call is like a freaking superstar, and it was just so awesome. And you all gave such great advice. And I really hope that whoever's tuning in or whenever people watch this, they can take this advice and get hired in the industry, because paying your bills with the money you make from doing cartoons is like a dream come true.
I agree
100%.
110%. I'd like to thank everyone for joining today's panel discussion about building a portfolio in the animation industry. It was really great to have you all on. If you are interested in showing studios that you know your way around Harmony or Storyboard Pro, you can download a fully featured 21-day trial for Harmony Premium, as well as Storyboard Pro from our website at toonboom.com. And next week, Collaboratory returns. We'll be improvising an entirely new storyboard with Mike Morris live on the air on Wednesday, August 24th. Details are on our events page on Facebook. You won't want to miss it. So be sure to tune in next time.